before I start asking any questions or we start the discussion, is there anything that comes to your mind when you hear the phrase, the title of our booklet, Bharat Landscape Beyond Tier 2?
I think Bharat is definitely way, way, way beyond tier 2. And I think the whole world is waking up to the fact that Bharat is not just the metros and tier 2 cities. There is a lot more. I think 80% of it is beyond that, and we all need to recognize that fact.
Thanks, Gunjan. Hemang, anything from you?
Endless possibilities. That's where we need to figure out new challenges and avenues of growth for all of us. In fact, that's the first thought that came into mind when I heard that word. So yeah.
Thank you. Janet?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting us today. I think when I think of Bharat tier 2, tier 3, I think there's so much of authentic storytelling that happens over there, which we in metros have, need to go and explore it. And as PR professionals, this is an opportunity for us to really deep dive and see what is the kind of storytelling we can do out there. Metros is saturated. The amount of monies you need to put in metros for a PR initiative versus small towns, I think आप छोटा चीज़ करो पर अच्छी तरह से करो, it will touch people's hearts.
Great. Janet, taking cue from what you said, could we deep dive a little into the consumer landscape as well? How do you differ between consumers who are residing in metros vis-a-vis tier 2 and beyond?
So I think this is a very interesting question. I think consumers, whether it's metros, small towns, they all aspire to have good quality products, higher aspirational brands. So in our portfolio, I belong to Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. It's one of the most loved apparel brands in the countries. I'm sure you will have one piece of wardrobe belonging to a Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, Alan Solly, Peter England, pantaloons, and so on. So yeah, so when we decided, as a business strategy to enter into tier 3, tier 4 markets, investments, the business format was you do franchisee models. So the investment is theirs, products is ours. I think it's a great win-win for both the business and the audiences, consumers as well, because you are taking your brands to their markets and you're selling it in a very branded flavor. So I think consumers love your brands irrespective of metros, non-metros, and the way you partner with your local franchisees, I think it's a win-win for brands as well as for consumers.
Hemang, would you want to add anything here? The consumer landscape and how it shifts as we move from metros to tier 2 to tier 3?
No, I think something we were discussing earlier when we all gathered, that nothing is going to shut down or evaporate on its own. You evolve the face of it. If you look at the economy that we have, we always take aspirations or look up to Western countries and continents to understand what's happening. I work for a gaming company. We have looked for regulations and understanding of consumer behavior, say from US. Pokerbazi is into poker. So you gradually move on to. Earlier we used to have big chunky, screens, we call it desktops. Now we have foldables with us. So we evolve and upgrade. And I think that's exactly what is happening, be it tier 1 metros or tier 2, tier 3 markets. We look for something which is more upgraded, which is more new. And primarily, as Gunjan ma'am was highlighting, it's happening because you have the accessibility of far superior network and content consumption that we can do right now. I remember in my old days, we used to hit our television to get that frequency and clean image right now. Now it's all Super HD 4K, in front of your small screen that you enjoy it. And the moment that happens, for me, there is no barrier. There is no distinction between as such in terms of my users. I have someone who's based out of Una. I don't know, किसी को पता है Una कहाँ पे क्या है? It's in Himachal Pradesh. It's a small town. And there is a farmer who actually won gold at NPS. And NPS is National Poker Series, India's biggest gaming event. मेरी नज़र में IPL से भी बड़ा है वो. और वहाँ पे this guy has won gold. And all this was possible because of the connectivity, the kind of access he got through those screens and devices he can, and he won. And his idea is to basically pursue PhD using the money he's been winning. Or desh ka naam roshan karna, give back to society and all. So the moment you see something like that, for me there is no differentiation between tier 2, tier 4, tier 5. My audience is everywhere. In fact, we'll be fools if we don't look out beyond tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, tier 6 markets. So that's my take.
Sure. Himang, when you say consumer landscape doesn't change much and consumers are similar everywhere, would you say the same about media landscape also? Or do you think there is any bifurcation in tier 2, tier 3 as far as media is concerned? And when I say media, I'm not only talking about print or electronic, I'm saying platform agnostic, the media.
Now that's a valid point, and I think we did touch upon that. We were discussing it. And I asked that you must be seeing a lot of YouTubers creating content, talking about technology and new devices. And these are mostly from metros. That's how it started. And 80% of that audience belongs to tier 4, tier 3, tier 5 markets. You look at the biggest tech YouTuber we have, which is Technical Guruji. 80% of his audience, if I'm not wrong, would be tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, 5 markets. They swear by what they're saying. And it's also getting aspiration, inspiration from that person. And they have started their channels talking about the similar language. But there's a huge difference. That person, be it Technical Guruji or anybody else, they live in metros, or in fact Dubai and all those places. And the person who actually was inspired and started his own channel, he's from Una, he's from Darbhanga, for example. So he has better close association and understanding about his or her market. He is going to get more authentic vibe and connect with the audience. And the challenge for me is, the moment you build that, you're creating content which is at par. Look at Gyan Therapy. Lucknow-based guy has 3.5 million subscriber base. And he's very authentic, very desi, very typical Lucknowi style of saying things. And he's one of the fastest growing tech YouTubers in India, right? If you say, irrespective what platform is, isn't that a beautiful thing to connect and reach out? So for me, I just need to switch my medium. Instead of relying on a city page in a newspaper, I might connect with those guys, understand what they have to say, align things from my end that makes sense, and do something interesting and hit that audience.
Sure, a very valid point. Gunjan, coming to you, Usha is, as a brand, is as regional as a brand can be. How has your experience been while you work beyond tier 2 cities? And also if you could touch upon how the media landscape changes and what has your experience been on that front also?
I think, like I was saying, both mobiles and mobility and rural electrification, all the government schemes have actually enabled and empowered people in beyond tier 2 towns, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, to start dreaming about having appliances at home, to start having modern day conveniences at home. And earlier, if you saw, if you didn't have electricity for 18 hours a day, there was no point in, having showpieces in your house. Now they can all use those appliances. They can use things which will free up their time to do better, something that they are passionate and enjoy. So I think that's really important. And there's a whole transformation that has come across thanks to all these, the mobile penetration and the awareness, global awareness. People in tier 3 and tier 4 are making pasta. They are making so many things which would have been inconceivable probably 10 years ago. And how is it possible? It's because I think we are all human beings finally at the end of the day. Aspirations remain the same. Aspirations to grow, do better, eat better, enjoy life will remain the same. And when you have the channels that reach you where you are, then obviously you will consume that. Whether it is information, whether it is appliances, whether it is news, anything that is available to you where you are is what the person in the tier 3 or tier 4 will reach out for. And if you can speak to them in the language that they are most comfortable in, then you have a connect which is very difficult to break.
Sure, because you mentioned the language and reaching out to them in their language, their dialect. whatever conversations we've had with media editors across the country while publishing these white papers and research reports, we figured out that print circulation is still increasing in tier 3 and beyond, whereas it is saturating in tier 2 and on the decline in metros. The scenario is a little different when it comes to YouTubers and digital platforms. How do you see that landscape shaping up again vis-a-vis tier 2 and metros?
From what I've observed again now, because I have grown up, lived in a lot of tier 3, tier 4 cities also, because my father was a mining engineer, so we were scattered all over the countryside. There is a very hardcore traditional mindset. Maybe this next generation will break that, moving to mobile news consumption and everything, consuming everything on the go. But till our generation at least, I think the first thing in the morning is you want your hard copy of the local newspaper. That consumption pattern is so deep-rooted and so deep-set, it's very difficult to break that. Okay? And in terms of, if you look at the YouTube, look at the influencers where they're coming from, like he said, Dharbanga. Okay, you look at other influencers, you go to the cookery, go to any cooking, this thing, look for the influencers. You will see, I think 70% of them are from tier 3, tier 4 town, tier 3 at least. And they do amazing local, regional cuisine, which everyone wants to suddenly rediscover. So there is, it's not, I'm saying it's not shifting, but there's a huge transformation in how we are perceiving them now. They are equal. They are not ki wo tier 3 or tier 4 se hain. Earlier there was this marked distinction. Now those lines are blurring. They are no longer segregated. Because, everything around our world, I think, the lines have blurred across everything.
No, a great point, Gunjan. Janet, you mentioned that your brand is loved across tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. So in a way, boundaries are blurred and it is geographic agnostic. But while you are wooing the customers in a tier 3 or a tier 4 town, is there anything specifically that you keep in mind while devising a communication strategy, or is it still a replica of what is being done in metros or even tier 2 towns now?
So when we are crafting our strategies for tier 4, tier 3, tier 4 markets, we have to keep the sensibilities of your local audience and your media houses over there, what will work, what will not work. To just give you a very simple example, we were launching a brand and we said, let's do fashion shows across the length and breadth of the country. So humne to sab kar diya. So when we used to go to small towns, we used to think, fashion shows will work. Interestingly, it did work, but what the local media there wanted to know was, the one-on-one interviews with the spokesperson. In fashion show to ho gaya, but everybody flocked to the business head ki boss aap kitna paisa daloge hamare gaon mein, what's the kind of employment will you generate, will you do for our people. So I think those are the kind of learnings we get, and one size doesn't fit all is what we realized, because north, south, east markets are so different, and it's only when you travel over there you realize that you have to be there to understand those people and give them solutions that they want, rather than we sit in metros and develop those plans for those markets.
No, I think, Janet, a very valid point. Last year we published a white paper which was decoding regional media, and this was one of the key pointers. If we are not giving them stories which are connected to the roots, which they want to hear from us, then we are doing injustice to our brands. And we are expecting them to publish the same press notes that we expect a Delhi journalist to publish. Completely agree. Himank, a question to you now. Your sector is supposedly the sin sector. And government right now, all their policies, if I could analyze that correctly, it is all about tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 zones. While you are wooing a customer in a sin sector, do you think the aspirations, one, of a tier 3, tier 4 person, and the way they are brought up? Because I feel a person who's brought up in a metro has better exposure, whereas a person who's brought up in a tier 3 and tier 4 town, his upbringing, cultural nuances are very different. That means he would come with preconceived notions about especially sin sectors and even other brands. How do you tackle that?
Now you'll remember when I'll say what I'm saying right now. because you did hear this from me. We had this issue. I think there was a city in Jaipur where we wanted to promote a specific player of the city. Unfortunately, we could not. And let me clarify when I say promote it. We wanted to put some banners or something which makes more visibility for that person. That did not happen. What we did was something really interesting. I had a word with the player, we figured out agencies, and we reached out to a couple of regional, media outlets to convey that thought process. The winner, his struggle. And for us, he was a hero. What he did was unbelievable. Apart from the money factor, we focus on his, love for the game and how it is bringing up. And during that conversation, a lot of myths were also busted. What we have understood, and officially it's a statement that poker is a mind sport. We clarified all these things. And you know what happened next day? Every paper with his photo carried the story of that hero. And imagine this. You all have your WhatsApp groups dedicated to your families. Mera parivar, meri shakti, I have this group where we have I don't even know the relatives, like hundreds of them. We all come together and sabke ghar mein, sabke WhatsApp mein hoga. Now imagine there will be people who might be against the idea of that player playing poker. कि भाई तुम तो कार्ड का गेम खेल रहे हो, सट्टा है, whatever it is, right? And if that person could be Chacha ji, Chachi ji, Tau ji, they see that, okay, Chintu की photo आई है, okay, and they just scan and send it on the group. कि ये हमारा ही बेटा है ना ये, you got it. Isn't it that a perception change? Because imagine, sounds filmy, but the moment you see, let's say your son's achievement coming in paper or in media, will you not feel happy कि हाँ भाई मेरी छाती चौड़ी कर दी इसने? I feel so happy and excited about it. All of a sudden, you're changing the perception. Because I genuinely believe that if you have to influence that person who has the capacity and power and money, focus on the group who's influencing him. If I want to buy electric, it's not about MG Motor or Tata reaching out to me कि sir आप please आप हमारी गाड़ी ले लीजिए. My idea is that I need to convince my mother. I need to convince my wife that hey, this is gonna be the big deal. If my wife says कि हाँ हम चलेंगे आगरा, but बीच में बंद हो गई तो मुझे तो चलानी नहीं आती. How am I gonna do the repair and all these things? The moment I address those answers, I think there would be no problem. So I think these are the small things we need to focus, and we also focus on influencing जो group है ना, जो मेरे players को influence करता है. I think through all these things we try to influence it. Plus, if you look at it, imagine your brother, your son, or could be my sister or anyone, getting a medal from people like Marigom, Shikhar Dhawan, Yuvraj Singh. Are you telling me that they are doing something wrong?
Yeah.
हाँ, पैसे देके तो कहीं भी जा सकते हैं. यहाँ क्यों आए? ऐसा क्या मिल रहा है? They also believed in it. These are the small nuances that changes the perception.
No,
Then
absolutely.
we reach out using those overall landscape, not just newspapers. And one more thing I noticed, what tier 3 and tier 4 markets are offering is actually related to what Mukesh is all about. इनकी कंपनी का नाम फ्यूजन है. वहाँ फ्यूजन मिलता है, बताऊँ कैसे? You go out and try tier 1 markets in Lucknow and all. You may or may not see somebody is having a discussion चाय पे बैठे जहाँ paper भी पढ़ रहे हैं and they are looking at your reels.
Absolutely.
This happens in tier 3 market, tier 4 market, tier 5 market. They are not going to lose their culture and values and all, but they're going to incorporate and blend in and collab with the new things that are happening.
That's a valid point. Iman.
That's
And
a
I
beauty
feel
of tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 markets. The moment we realize it, I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Absolutely. I think boundaries are blurring, and you are absolutely right. Gunjan, taking your view, we've talked about the positives and the opportunities, but is there anything that you are cautious about while you devise your strategy for tier 3 and beyond? Or anything that you feel is a little difficult even now while you are trying to reach out?
I think, like he said, understanding the local nuances, whether it's societal, it's cultural, something which could be really cool and easy going for us in the metros could be a huge deal, in a tier 3 and tier 3. And while they're aware of these things, but because they've been brought up in an environment where those, maybe those topics or these things and don't really go down so well. So you have to speak to them in a language they are comfortable in and in a language that they understand. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. We are short on time, so I will just ask one last question. Is
Mukesh,
there a
before,
myth?
before
Please,
you start
please.
the last questions, I just wanted to share with you all one very interesting case study we've done. We have an artisanal brand called Jaipur, where we work with artisans across the country. So we did a little bit of a reversal. While we have our brands in tier 4, tier 3 and tier 4 markets, we have our artisanal communities in the local parts of the country, very small towns and all of that. So we did a little bit of a reversal. We took national media houses to those markets, to those local
Amazing.
artisans, to cover them and to bring their stories to the national media in the front. So we've covered 4 stories of Toda, Dabu, and Kalamkari, and one more art, and Dokra. So we've taken media houses, national media houses, to cover those artisanal communities. And I think between, when we say regional media, national media, I think the buy-in is there from both sides.
Great. I think this is the truest version of turning regional is being the national now. I'll start with you only and then allow me to end it with Gunjan.
Sure.
Any myths that you want to break about tier 3 markets and beyond?
I think when you have a very solid story, whether it is metro, whether it's non-metro, if you truly believe in your story, I think you should just go all out and partner with your local teams out there, win their confidence, and I think it will be a win-win for both sides.
Perfect. Thank you. Hemang, quickly, if in 30 seconds you could.
बड़ा मुश्किल है यार. I'll try.
Try, sir.
No, I think if you want to be a great speaker, try to be a great listener. So the moment you listen to those people, you understand what works for them. Because I genuinely feel there is no line or understanding as such कि tier 4 है, tier 5 है, tier 6 है. ये बहुत blurred line है, मुझे तो लगता ही नहीं है. सब बराबर है.
Awesome. Gunjan, the final word to you then.
Yeah, 2 things. A, that there's this myth that maybe people in tier 3 and tier 4 are not willing to shell out the bucks. That's no longer the case. And 2, the fact that you may be able to pull wool over their eyes. No, today they're absolutely aware of everything that they want. They're very sure about what they want and at what price point they want it.
And what they don't want as well.
And what they don't want as well, right.
Amazing. I think a great point to end the conversation with. And I just hope all of us sitting in the room and people watching online, that this starts a little bit of deeper conversation about tier 3 cities and beyond. And we are able to include them in our comm strategy as much as possible. Thank you, Gunjan. Thank you, Hemang. Thank you, Janet, for this
Thank you,
great
Mukesh.
conversation. Thank you.